another person that I never got a chance to meet, but I've learned so much about her. Her name is Jane Ramage. Jane Ramage. Jane Ramage was born into slavery in Edgefield, South Carolina, 1836. She died in 1926 at the age of 90. But she was fortunate to receive an education and then went on to teach other former slaves. The state of South Carolina didn't give her an official certification. They didn't have schools for former slaves at that time, but she was able to teach other slaves. She married Mr. Williams, had a daughter, had several children. Her oldest daughter was Cynthia Williams, who also became a teacher. That's Jane Ramage. Jane Ramage Williams. And if I can, that's her daughter Cynthia. Another daughter of hers, Leela. I think you kind of sense where I'm going. She died in 1926. She taught, her daughter Cynthia taught, and Cynthia's daughter, if I can get this thing to work, Francina Miriam Sharp, Robinson Sharp, spoke at her high school graduation, and I have the entire speech and her notes written out. The theme of her speech was Elevation Requires Education. That was in 1906. She, of course, married what would become my grandfather. They went to South Carolina State together. And at the time, of course, jobs were hard to come by. So they moved to Pittsburgh, and he got a job as a Pullman porter. She died in 1921, a year after giving birth to her fifth child. He died 3 years later in a train wreck near Franklin, PA. And so the legacy of education and teaching continues on in my family. My mother was a phys ed director at the Ammon, Pittsburgh Park, and the Ammon Park and Hill District. My father taught night school because he couldn't get a job as a day teacher in Pittsburgh at the time. His brother, my uncle, taught. And so we have actually 6 generations of family, and many of those family we share here, who have excelled in education. Education was an extremely important value in our household. My brother here, he can attest to it. You were expected to get A's and B's. A C was equivalent to an F. And it wasn't until my sophomore year at Pitt, with a couple of chemistry and calculus courses, that I began to realize grades aren't everything. But the legacy continues with my daughter, Alissa Burse. Alissa teaches high school biology here in Charlotte. She is an outstanding teacher, beloved by her peers as well as the students. Not only does she teach, she and her husband Darren are raising an outstanding family and are challenged with raising young Josiah, who is struggling with autism. But they've done an excellent job. They have a beautiful family. And DeMichael will be graduating from Emory and Henry College tomorrow. We're extremely proud of DeMichael. So much so that tomorrow morning, his graduation starts at 10 a.m., so we'll be leaving out of here about 6 a.m. to drive up to Emory and Henry in Virginia to join him and celebrate and acknowledge his accomplishments. DeMichael and I have had a number of experiences over the years. But if you thought that the children in our household had a rough, My daughter and her husband carried it to another level. People say our 4 sons, they all went into the military because they thought the military would be easier than their home life. Had a good night's sleep. Yeah. Here's the governor of North Carolina when they were recognizing was it Autism Day or?
It's Georgia.
It was
In Georgia.
in Georgia.
Okay.
Autism awareness.
And then, if I can get this thing to work for me. This is one of the events that Alissa had the good fortune, was this at Duke?
Yes, sir.
Duke University. She was selected to go up there for a special teacher's workshop. Here's some of her recent accomplishments, to give you an idea. I'll just buzz through these. All right. She is loved by her students so much. I'll have to share this with you. I think it was September of 2012 when she was finally diagnosed with lupus. So in addition to all the other challenges, beginning a year ago, last May, she started going through chemotherapy. She still teaches. And on occasion, because of the nature of the regimen of chemo that she's undergoing, her students have to be careful not to infect her. So they come to school with surgical masks because they don't want to lose her and have to deal with a substitute. And so I am proud to announce the establishment of the Alissa Fountain Burst Scholarship, targeted This scholarship will be targeted for students who want to go and get an education and get a degree in education as a teacher, and also to provide many grants for current educators. All right? I'm going to take just another minute to talk about education. We're out of here by 9:30, so I can guarantee you we'll be out here before 9:30.
We don't have any place to go. You're retired. Take it easy.
No, but,
Excuse me, are we okay, Morgan? Okay.
okay. I call educators the soldiers on the front line. We talk about wars. We talk about wars, social wars. Wars on poverty, wars on crime, wars on cancer. But I can assure you, if we're not successful at the front line, we will not be as successful winning any war. And that's why I call our educators the soldiers on the front line. A lot of us work in very hazardous projects. But I can guarantee you, I've been in high schools. I've been to Alissa's high school several times. You read in the newspaper. So I challenge any one of you, if you would dare take a job as a teacher. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. And I know that with us tonight, there are a number of educators. And that's what I'm going to focus on in my retirement, is to support teachers. I know there's some teachers that aren't the best, but they're by far in the minority, And I know parents typically will go to a school and, bless a teacher out because their child just didn't get what they were expecting. But it's not the teacher's fault. Okay? Society as a whole, we've gone astray from our value of education. We'd sooner put a $500 million stadium up than to pay reasonable compensation for our teachers. So I'm going to ask, this is kicking off this campaign, so to speak. This is a very simple thing I want to ask people to do. Pick one day out of the year. One day, call up a school that you choose. Ask the administrator there what you can do to help the teachers. Maybe it's just to come into the school and help them make copies. Maybe it's to sit in their classroom and just listen. Not get in there and tell the students how great you are, but just go in there and listen. Just one day out of the year. And we'll try to form a bank of data of all of these visits so we can build a groundswell of teacher support across the country. Now, I'm not into social media, but I have some young people who are. And we're going to kick this thing off in a few months. So I'll be calling you or sending you an email reminding you of this night that you made a commitment to spend one day, just one day, in a grade school or a high school of your choice.